They thought their money was a shield. It became their tomb. The billionaires who vanished into their underground fortresses discovered a terrible truth. Some doors lock from the inside. Subscribe to Think What If for more stories that push your imagination to the edge. Imagine the final door sealing. A perfect silence descends, broken only by the hum of a hidden world. The air is sterile. The walls are polished steel. You are surrounded by every luxury imaginable. A vault of vintage wine, a library of first editions, a screen showing the chaos unfolding on the surface. You feel a thrill of victory. You have cheated the end of the world. But the real end was already inside with you. It was in the air you breathed. It was in the body of the person next to you. The apocalypse did not begin with a bang. It began with a whisper. A genetic mistake in a lab somewhere. A spillover event in a wet market. The trigger was likely a virus. Not a mindless monster, but a sophisticated parasite of the cell. Think of rabies, a virus that alters the host's behavior, inducing aggression and a fear of water to ensure its own transmission. Now imagine a new pathogen, airborne like the flu, with a long incubation period like HIV, allowing it to spread silently for weeks. A pathogen that targets the human brain itself. This is not science fiction. Research into neurotropic viruses is extensive. Scientists study how viruses can cross the blood-brain barrier. They investigate how pathogens can cause encephalitis, inflammation that leads to confusion, aggression, and a breakdown of higher cognitive function. This is the real zombie, not a supernatural creature, but a human being whose mind has been hijacked by a microscopic invader. The rich in their bunker were not hiding from the walking dead. They were hiding from a ghost in the machine of humanity, a ghost that needed no door to enter. The first sign was subtle. A member of the security team, a man named Evans, snapped at a colleague over a minor protocol. People dismissed it as stress. Then the head chef reported a shipment of truffles that had never been ordered. Paranoia began to bloom in the sterile environment. The internal cameras showed nothing out of the ordinary, yet things were moving. Supplies were misplaced. Small, irritating errors appeared in the system logs. The perfect machine was developing a glitch. But the glitch was not in the code. It was in the mind. How do you fight an enemy you cannot see? The bunker's air filters were rated for biological threats. Their medical bay was a fortress of technology. But what if the threat was not in the air, but in the blood? What if it was dormant in one of the 50 people who entered on the first day? A virus can hide. It can integrate itself into your very DNA, waiting for a signal, a trigger. Stress is a powerful trigger. The constant, low-grade fear of the apocalypse outside can weaken the immune system. It can wake a sleeping monster. The monster was always there. The bunker was just a pressure cooker. The first scream echoed through the grand dining hall at 2:14 a.m. By the time security arrived, 2 people were dead, their throats torn out. The attacker was Dr. Eris, the bunker's chief psychologist. Her eyes were wild, her movements jerky and unnaturally strong. She had no memory of the event. She was sedated, confined to the infirmary. The explanation was a psychotic break, mass hysteria. But you know better. You saw the footage. You saw the pure, mindless rage on her face. That was not a mental illness. That was an infection that was now loose in their sealed world. The bunker had a protocol for everything, except for this. The Council of Billionaires, the ones who funded this sanctuary, argued. Some wanted to quarantine the entire medical wing. Others insisted it was an isolated incident. They voted to isolate the infected. They sealed the medical bay doors. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. The pathogen did not spread through bites. That is a primitive, inefficient vector. It spread through the ventilation system, through aerosolized droplets from a cough, through the sweat on a gym towel. The entire bunker was now the petri dish. You are sitting in your quarters. You hear a thump from the room next door, then a scraping sound. What would you do? Would you open the door? Would you risk a glance? Your heart is a hammer in your chest. The emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows. The steady hum of the ventilation system has changed. It sputters. Someone, somewhere, has failed to maintain it. The sterile air now carries a new scent. The coppery tang of blood. The sour smell of fear. This is not the escape you paid for. This is a trap you built for yourself. The phrase echoes in your mind. The perfect world. They thought they were building a perfect world. A world of order and control, insulated from the chaos of nature. But they forgot one thing. Humanity is part of that chaos. Our emotions, our instincts, our biology are wild and unpredictable. You cannot put a price on the human spirit. You cannot sanitize survival. The perfect world was a beautiful lie, and the lie was beginning to rot from the inside out. The power failed for 11 minutes. In that absolute blackness, you heard it. The sounds. Not just screams of terror, but something else. A low, guttural growling. The sound of things being torn apart. When the emergency power kicked in, the corridor outside your door was changed. A smear of blood led around a corner. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the noise. How many of them are left? How many of them are still human? Your food supply is locked in a central pantry. Your water comes from a recycled system that might now be contaminated. Your fortress has become a labyrinth, and you are not alone in it. You have to make a choice. Do you stay locked in this room and slowly starve? Or do you venture out into the darkness to find supplies, to find other survivors? How far would you go to survive? Would you kill someone who was once your friend? Would you sacrifice another to save yourself? These are the questions the billionaires never asked themselves. They prepared for a hurricane, but they were hit by a plague. And a plague attacks not the body, but the soul. The final stand was not at the main door, it was in the control room. A handful of survivors had barricaded themselves inside, trying to restore contact with the outside world. They failed. The last transmission they received was not a rescue message. It was a repeating loop of a scientific advisory. It described the pathogen's vector. It was not bloodborne. It was not airborne. It was prison-based. A misfolded protein, like the one that causes mad cow disease. It spreads through consumed tissue. The bunker's initial food stocks. The premium, imported beef. The perfect world was poisoned from the very first meal. They had paid a fortune to eat their own death. The rich still died. They died not because their walls were weak, but because their understanding of the world was fragile. They believed money could buy a new reality. It could not. Reality is a virus. Reality is a prison. Reality is the dark biological truth that we are all animals, subject to the same ruthless laws of nature. The last sound in the bunker was not a scream. It was the soft, final click of a biometric lock recognizing a dead man's hand. The door did not open. The perfect world remained perfectly sealed, a monument to a failed idea. Subscribe to Think What If for more worlds you should never forget.